What's up, everybody? Mark with Carterbox Academy here, and I'm kind of excited because today is a very real blind reaction. You know, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I stopped trying to do blind reactions a long time ago because you can only go so far. Being a metal vocalist of 14 years and a metal fan, pretending like you haven't heard Opeth, you know, like it's not a guys you can really keep up. And since I've been doing metal vocals for so long and teaching metal vocals, I'm a full-time vocal coach, teaching people how to do stuff like, you know, safely and efficiently. It would be a fool's errand to pretend like I hadn't heard all these songs, but this legitimately, I'm not familiar with. Now, of course, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but the former vocalist of Crystal Lake, Ryo, I'm not sure. You can tell me in the comments below. I'm familiar with his voice because we've reacted to him before. We've talked about his vocals before, but this is his new project. And legitimately, I woke up this morning. We do all of our filming on Mondays. This is Monday the 20th at the time of the filming. And I reached out to my business partner. I said, hey, Quigs, what the heck am I doing? And he sent me this. So beyond the thumbnail, I don't really know. But if you enjoy the content, like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to listen, pause, talk about metal vocal techniques, either the way I would do it, the way that they would do it, or somewhere in between. And it's going to be a good time. That's all I know. So let's go ahead. Let's check out Yakusai by Knosis. Or is it Knosis by Yakusai? I don't really know. Let's check it out. So already, goodness gracious, already we have a lot of Ryo doing exactly what he does very, very well, which is a lot of stuff in a very small space, right? We've got forward, we've got powerful, voiced basically like hardcore shouts that are more balanced towards distortion. We've got a very bright, masky forward singing. We've got like a very like Sam Carter Architects chorus. I mean, for me to break down everything he's doing here, even this section of the video, it would be its own 40-minute video. So instead, I'm going to talk about some of the general things that I hear that he's doing really, really well. One of the main things that I hear him doing is having a really masterful control over his vocal placement, right? And so when I talk about vocal placement, like, what do I mean, right? And we hear that term a lot of time, and just be aware that from person to person, from school to school, you know, these terms can kind of change a little bit. But when I talk about vocal placement, what I'm talking about is I'm talking about the way that we can influence the behavior of sound waves within our vocal tract to aim them in certain places to achieve certain vocal results, right? And so, for example, I can sing a tone, right? I can sing a tone neutrally, really bland, I can sing it more open and in the back, hey. I can sing it in the front, e. These are extreme exaggerations to prove the point here, but he really is able to just put his voice in any spot that he wants. And that's a very integral part of how we achieve all these harsh vocal sounds. One of the main things that a student or a new vocalist will stumble over is when they think about their screams, they think about them only as distortion, right? Now, there is some leeway for this if we're doing just purely distorted sounds. If we're doing stuff that's just nothing but texture, you know, like these sorts of things, right? Then we're not really working with a lot of pitch, and we have a little bit more room to play around. But what we hear from the vocalist here is a lot of true vocal cord activation underneath the scream. And anytime we get into that, we're really going to have to think about a lot of singing fundamentals as well. Even if you're not a very good singer, you know, being able to understand which vowels tend to resonate where, what posture the tongue needs to be in to achieve certain timbres of the voice. You know, this is something that gets mastered very much over time. And I think that regardless of how you feel about, you know, Ryo era Crystal Lake or his new band here, which so far is very, very cool, like, you got to respect the mastery that's going along here. Let's go ahead and let's keep going, because I'm sure there's a lot more specific stuff that I can talk about, but he jam-packed a ton into the beginning, and I'm interested to see what happens. Here we go. I'm going to actually pause it right there real quick so we can talk about something. Now, my apologies for one thing. That breakdown was awesome, and I would have loved to be jumping around the room. But dear old Mark of Cardivox Academy injured his back. I'm actually wearing, if you know what a TENS unit is, I'm wearing it right now. So I have to like do like the Batman, you know, if you like Michael Keaton Batman, where he turns and looks like this. I have to do a lot of that because it's not good. This also means I'm not like super leaning into any screams right now, because believe it or not, it's making my back hurt. Anyway, so let's talk about a couple things, right? What we have here is we have a very polished shout, right? Now, sometimes when I say that, people are like, no, it's so much more than shouting. Obviously, it's so much more than shouting. But what we have is we have a shout, like shouting at somebody, right? I'm going to do kind of a low level, just shout. Like, let's say I see somebody keying my car. I may be like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, right? That's just a raw shouting at somebody across the room, right? And we have that, and we have it lifted up, right? So this is something that's getting a little bit more to the head voice space, a little bit above that vocal break, and that distortion is starting to kind of follow that direction and be more up in the back of the mouth here. When I did that shouting at somebody across the car, it was just messy, tossing distortion out, right? And this can be something that's quite difficult for new vocalists to do. This is sort of a sound that I've noticed amongst new vocalists. They either kind of have it or they don't. And if they don't, what they're going to need to do is they're going to need to really familiarize themselves with their clean voice before their harsh voice, which is a strange way to make that distinction. Not really, but it's going to be very important for you to understand what it feels like to feel your voice in the front of the face, right? Versus deep down in the throat. And it's going to be important for you to understand how to project your voice and add power, right? Without squeezing the throat and drawing that power from down below. And what that comes to is a lot of breathing drills. And what that comes down to is a lot of very fundamental voice exercises, right? One that I really enjoy for just basically learning to feel what it feels like to build that mind-body connection towards having my voice in the front of my face, right? In the cheekbones, the mask, while keeping the throat relaxed, is to do. If any of my students are watching this, they're going to be like, oh God, I'm so tired of doing this, but do it anyway. Doing like a sort of Fonzie, right? Which he's before my time as well, but he was this character from a show called Happy Days. And he would walk into rooms and he'd go, hey, that was kind of his catchphrase, right? A lot of people, when I tell them that, they're like, isn't that from The Office? And I'm like, yes, but no, right? So this and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my abdominal muscles, right? I'm going to sort of gently squeeze my core muscles to sort of rev the engine. Now, once I'm there and my throat is relaxed, I'm going to build back into that, like, you know, being mad at somebody for like keying my car or something. And I'm going to go, hey, buddy, hey. And when I do that, right, notice how as the sound gets louder, I'm dropping my jaw, I'm smiling, right? I'm encouraging those frequencies and those sound waves to exist up in the front of the face. And when we do that, generally speaking, we're going to be creating space in the back of the mouth for all of these things to roll around and create all these crazy sounds that we enjoy. Anyways, let's go ahead and keep going. Oh, yeah. I know we're going to be getting to like some big crazy parts, so I'm going to pause it before that happens. I wanted to point out, you can really hear a lot of this like forward masky sound. I don't know what the lyrics are. It sounds like he's saying in my head, and it's almost got like this in my head. It's not quite that bright, but it has like that very bright like twang. There's like a lot of high frequencies going on. And that's a really good example of what these forward masky sounds can sound like. And he's doing it exceptionally well. I also love, like, I'm getting a lot of Sam Carter influence here, at least in the songwriting. But one thing I'm loving is that he doesn't have just like one gritty belt. And I think that's something that I've always admired about him as a vocalist, is that, you know, a lot of people, they've got their low, their mid, and their high, right? Or they've got their gritty singing voice and their clean singing voice. But amongst all of those, he has so many different textures and colors and timbres, right? You know, he's got, sometimes his pitch scream is mostly voice. Other times it's mostly grit. Other times it's a 50-50 balance of both. And he does these things across his whole voice. And this is something that's very, very difficult to teach. And what I mean by that is you know, we can talk about here's an exercise all day, but exercises are simply a way to facilitate the understanding of your own body and your own voice. It's a way for you to help build, again, that mind-body connection. Because at the end of the day, right, think about it like learning to drive a car, right? I know that's a really tired vocal coach analogy, but just bear with me here, right? You know, when you first learn to drive a car, you know, somebody tells you what everything does, and it's still shaky, right? You pass your driver's test, but you're still a little bit unsure. You're still checking all your mirrors. The car feels unfamiliar. But as you drive, you get very familiar with that car, the way that it moves, the way that the weight shifts, right? And the only way you're going to do that is by taking it out and driving it, right? So that's kind of how you're going to get to these levels of nuance. And that being said, you're really not going to get here day one, right? Sometimes we do these reaction videos and we have a lot of techniques that you could go home and you could start playing with right now. But this is something you're really going to have to build into, and you're really going to have to make sure you understand what your body feels like, what your body moves like. I'm kind of rambling at this point. I'm just very impressed by how much control he has over his voice. And I also want to just throw a little bit of caution out there. That's, you know, I have worked with a lot of students that honestly sound pretty close as far as like the enjoyability of tone. Like, I enjoy listening to their voice very much like this. And yet they say, Mark, I don't understand what's going on. I can create these sounds and I sound exactly like this guy. I sound exactly like that guy. But whenever I'm done recording, my voice is gone. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And this is a very strong, like, I don't know if this is like an actual logical fallacy, but it's a breakdown in our understanding of vocal technique, which is that the sound is the metric by which we measure our success. That's only half of the picture. What you need to do is you need to think about, does it sound right and does it feel right? And the only way to know what it feels right is to, whether you're very good at self-teaching or you work with a coach, understand what the basic fundamentals are and how they work. If you have a breakdown of that, if you don't have that, you know, whether it's through your own like going slow, right? There are a lot of people who are self-taught that do really well, but they take the time to learn and play with their voice. You're going to have a hard time. This is a certain level of mastery that's hard to reach. I can't sing like this, right? I'd have to take a long time. But anyways, let's keep going. Great song so far. Oh, cheeky boy. Ooh, see, I wanted more of that outro and I didn't get it. He wants me to play the song again and I respect it. So at the end there, let's go ahead and talk about that last sound. That was a really interesting tongue position he had on those lows. It sounded like, in fact, let's listen to it again, actually. Let's listen to it again. Let's go right about, I think 235 is a good spot. Yeah, it's like a lowered tongue. Yeah. So it builds on a very traditional false chord sound with a light bit of compression at the top of the throat, which is a really great sound to have. And it's not that hard to do once you get the basic false chord down. Shameless plug for false chord fundamentals, cardivoxacademy.com. But with this, oftentimes when we're doing our metal vocals, we want to have our tongue in like a really funky spot to achieve a really weird tone, right? Because let's be real, we're doing metal vocals because we want to make insane, wacky sounds. That's the thing, right? However, one thing that we can do and one thing that we can focus on is keeping our tongue more neutral and making small, subtle changes to the tongue and the lips and the back of the mouth. So instead, rather than getting like all of these maximal styles, we get subtlety, right? And so if I take this, right? This like this basic sound, right? What I'm going to do is, instead of doing like what I would normally do, which would be to heavily curl my tongue forward or heavily curl it up, right? Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let my tongue sit flat. And this is just me playing around with how I would achieve the sound that he's achieving. I'm not saying for sure I know 100% this is what he was doing, because I wasn't in the studio with him, right? But instead, I'm going to let my tongue sit flat. So I'm here, right? That's my vocal, right? Now I'm going to let my tongue sit flat, and I'm going to do like 1% of a tunnel, and I'm also not going to like keep it there 100% of the time. I'm going to let it move. My tongue's going to be there as a guiding post. So I'm also going to keep my lips really loose and let my cheeks puff up a little bit. So when I put all these things together, right? And you have a lot of that. That's a really interesting, fun tone to play around with, but it's not requiring a lot of maximal work. And this just leads back into what I was saying about him as a vocalist earlier, is that he when we think of him as a vocalist, we think of all of this crazy acrobatics. But then when you zero in on his voice in specific sections, you realize that while, yes, he can do a lot of crazy vocal acrobatics, he is also exceptionally good at creating contrast and nuance with subtlety. And that is impressive to me. I mean, it's all impressive, really. I don't gatekeep. If you sound cool, then you're doing great. If you sound cool and you feel good, then you're doing great. But overall, this is a little bit of a shorter video. But overall, excellent. I love the way he's going. So far, I love the band. I love the way that they're going. And I'm so glad he's got a new project going, because, when he left Crystal Lake, people got to do what they got to do. I didn't really have any strong feelings about it either way. But I did think, man, I really hope he keeps going, though, because he's got a lot to offer. And surely enough, here we are. So thank you for sticking around for this slightly shorter video. I need to go ice my shoulder, but I appreciate you watching. Ryo's amazing vocalist. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.